So, Mudsdale's stats are very good, and he's very good at what he does, but he's almost too one-dimensional of a Pokemon, and once we get into the set, I'll show you what I mean. But first, if we look at his stats, his bulk is actually very good. He has 100 base HP, 100 base defense, and 85 base special defense, which means he is perfect for an Assault Vest. Having that bulk on both sides, mixed with his ability that we'll go over in a moment, means that almost nothing will be knocking him out in one hit. His attack is base 125, which is very, very respectable. It's actually stronger than a lot of Pokemon in this generation and in general. His special attack and speed are very low, but they're really not needed, and in such a slow generation, it's okay for him to be slow as well, because he may still outspeed other Pokemon just because everybody's slow. He's a pure ground type, which means he has 3 weaknesses that are decently common in the meta, and his resistances, while poison and rock are just okay, the electric immunity is an amazing thing to have, especially with Tapu Kokos and Alolan Raichus running around. As far as abilities go, his stamina ability that's unique to him and his evolution line is definitely the best ability. Own Tempo and Inner Focus just do not match up to stamina at all. So what stamina does is every time you're hit with an attack, you gain +1 defense. It's great, especially if you run the Assault Vest variant and you have a lot of special defense. Then every time you're hit, you gain physical defense, and you're very hard to knock out all of a sudden, because both sides are being boosted by either items or your ability. So Mudsdale is a very good Pokemon when it comes to taking hits. Now, if we look at the set I have planned out for him, the item's really hard to place. I was thinking Leftovers would be good to help with recovery. You could also run a Citrus Berry. Earth Plate is decent because it helps with your power and your earthquakes, while not taking away from anything either. And Assault Vest is really good, as I've discussed, but at the same time it prevents you from using moves like Rest. So really it depends on what your team still needs. As far as nature goes, Adamant and Brave are the 2 best in my opinion. Brave, obviously, if you're going to be running a Trick Room team because it lowers your speed. Adamant otherwise, because you never know when you may outspeed your opponents, say, wishy-washy. So max attack and max HP are definitely the way to go, with a little bit of investment in your special defense. And for coverage, Earthquake is going to be your best friend with this Pokemon. It does so much damage. Rock Slide is good to hit those flyers. Close Combat or Superpower is a good coverage move as well, because fighting is always a great type to have on your team, especially to deal with normal types and even ice types switching in on you. So Close Combat reduces both defenses, while your Superpower reduces your attack and your physical defense. So it's whatever you prefer, but I believe that Close Combat will be the more preferred option. For the last move, it's kind of difficult. You could run Heavy Slam for Steel type coverage, but it may not work because Mudsdale, while being fairly heavy, is far from the heaviest Pokemon. You could run Payback because more than likely you'll be getting hit before you hit your opponent, which means that the attack's power is doubled, and then it's a fairly strong Dark type move, but it's really kind of situational. Other moves he gets are High Horsepower, which is a base 95 physical ground type move with 95% accuracy, which means that it's inadequate to Earthquake because it has no secondary effects, but the only real use for it is in doubles. You will not do spread damage, and you will not hit your teammate if you decide to use High Horsepower. Its power also is not reduced by grassy terrain, which will be fairly common in the meta because Tapu Bulu sets it on its own. Body Slam, while being a normal type move, meaning it hits nothing super effectively, is still a decent move to have on him, because being able to catch your opponent's switch in with a paralysis, while situational and while kind of risky to run because you may not get it, could come in handy and could benefit you in the long run. From there, his move pool is really kind of shallow. He gets Sandstorm, which could help if you were running a sand team and if you wanted to bolster your special defense without running an Assault Vest. He would get Roar, which means you could force out your opponent's switch-ins that could potentially wall or one-shot your Mudsdale, and you could cause them to take entry hazard damage if you had them set up by another Pokemon. Counter is good if you were to take a physical hit, turn it around, knock your opponent out, and then you'd have +1 defense because they would have hit you. And then rest to gain your health back if you were running anything other than Assault Vest because you would have boosted defenses. Now, another set on this Pokemon that I didn't actually type out would be a Rest Sleep Talk set running something like Earthquake and Rock Slide as coverage that could be very useful, especially if you were to run max HP and max special defense, because you would be gaining defense, you would still have a high base attack, and you would be able to hurt your opponent while being able to more take hits because of your constantly increasing defenses. Like I said, Mudsdale is a very good Pokemon, and he's very, very good at what he does, but really, he can be predictable, and I think he'll remain top tier because other predictable Pokemon like Hippowdon have been so powerful in the meta in the past, but I just don't see him doing much special.